What is a revolution? A revolution is a sudden, complete or marked change in something. And for many in the programming world, that is what LiveCode is. But who are RunRev and what is LiveCode? RunRev, also known as Runtime Revolution, was founded in 1997 with the goal of empowering rapid creation of applications for enterprise, commercial, creative and academic environments. Using an intuitive and robust programming language, LiveCode is a modern descendant of Apple's HyperCard and enables software creation for everyone. LiveCode uses plain English words and phrases for most of its operations, eliminating the obscure symbols and complicated structures required for other programming languages. LiveCode is easy to learn and use, requires 90% less code, and can deliver a tenfold increase in productivity over traditional languages. With that being said, how did LiveCode come to be, and where did it all begin? As mentioned previously, LiveCode is a modern descendant of Apple's HyperCard. HyperCard was a set of tools that were used for creating applications on the Macintosh platform, and was originally released in 1987 by creator Bill Atkinson. Not only did he conceive HyperCard, he also designed and implemented it. Bill Atkinson worked for Apple from the years of 1978 to 1990.
HyperCard, what is it? It's not hyper, it's not even a card, it's not quite system software, it's not quite application software. There must be at least one guy who knows what HyperCard is, Danny Goodman. He just wrote a 700-page book about it. And there's one other guy who knows what HyperCard is. He developed it, Bill Atkinson. They'll both be on our show. Today we unravel the mystery of HyperCard on this edition.
Joining us in the studio now is
Chronicle.
Bill Atkinson. Bill is an Apple Fellow, the creator of HyperCard, also the creator of QuickDraw and Mac Paint. Next to Bill is Dan Winkler. Dan is the senior engineer at Apple working on the HyperCard project. Gary?
Stuart, a HyperCard sounds like a hardware board you'd put in your computer system, but this particular HyperCard comes in 4 floppy disks. Would you tell us what the HyperCard's all about, Bill?
Well, really simply put, HyperCard is a software erector set. It lets non-programmers put together interactive information.
Show us how you actually do this, Bill.
You use cards.
The idea of HyperCard was to allow users to create applications to carry out a specific task, rather than modifying an existing application for their needs. It's been described as both simple and powerful, and easy enough for young children to use, but effective enough to carry out complex tasks such as running the lighting system for one of the world's tallest buildings, the Petronas Towers in Malaysia. HyperCard did live a long life, with the last major update being in 1998. And then, it was eventually withdrawn from sale in 2004. So why was HyperCard withdrawn from sale, and what caused its unfortunate demise? There are many theories behind this. An article posted by Wired.com suggests that even though there were an estimated 10,000 HyperCard users worldwide, it eventually came down to a meeting with Phil Schiller, Apple's head of worldwide marketing, who reportedly ended up asking him, but how do we sell it? Some other theories discussed by John Gruber of DaringFireball.net are that Steve Jobs killed the project because he thought you could do everything in Cocoa and Project Builder that you could do in HyperCard. Another is that Macromedia pressured Apple to kill it, more or less telling Apple that if they shipped HyperCard 3, Macromedia would drop support for the macOS from Shockwave and Flash. But it would seem as simply that Apple was making a transition to being focused on being a consumer company. And while in the 80s and 90s that meant app creation, that became less of a case later. With all that being said, RunRev already had a product in the market that was to be the successor of HyperCard, and it was ready to fill the void that it left.
I'm Kevin Miller and I'm the CEO here at RunRev. We're a software technology company based in Edinburgh in Scotland, and we make a very easy to use programming platform. It's a way to let people make apps very easily, called LiveCode. LiveCode is a way of writing code in a language that's as close to English as possible. It gets its name from the fact that LiveCode is always on, it's always running, so you can make a small change to your program, you can see what effect that change has on your program, and then you can run it and make another change. So it leads to this very fast, very fluid, iterative development process that lets you see whether the app is what you want as you're making it. I founded it in 1997. It was a hobby in high school. The company was actually founded a little bit before that, a couple of years before that, as a part-time thing that I did on the side of high school, but I went full-time in 1997. It was the first thing that we did. We created a package to teach touch typing, and it was a shareware program, and we created it with a couple of friends back in, I think it was probably 1995 that we started producing that, and uploaded it to, back in the day, CompuServe was bigger than the internet, so I went out onto CompuServe and we had both a colour version and a black and white version, because not all the machines are colour, and if you tried to run the colour version on the black and white machines it would be too slow, so we had to build two separate versions for those platforms. We got our first registration check in the mail for $18 about 10 days after launching it, and that was it. I was convinced that I could run a business from that, and here we are today. When I was 12, I started out programming in HyperCard, this Apple product that was installed on the Mac. And when I got to around about the age 14, 15, I'd kind of got to the point where I couldn't do everything I wanted to. So I upgraded to SuperCard, which was a HyperCard competitor in those days, and built the Learn to Type product on SuperCard. And it was only later, in 1999 or 2000, that we started moving from SuperCard to MetaCard, because we wanted to take our typing tutor cross-platform. MetaCard was this Unix-based HyperCard clone, which was just in process of getting ported to Windows for the first time. And so we started porting from SuperCard on the Mac to MetaCard on the Windows so that we would have access to the Windows platform. It was at that point that we started to realize that there's a bit of a gap in the market for development tools, because that whole landscape was starting to change around about that point as well. We started by being a reseller for MetaCard, because we wanted to do more sales and marketing than they were maybe doing, and we wanted to start looking at packaging up the user interface tools to make them easier and more accessible, and expanding on the documentation and all of that kind of thing. So becoming a reseller was quite a big thing. Another really big thing was raising money back in 2003 to acquire MetaCard, so that was a major step forward. We'd talked about doing that acquisition for 2 or 3 years beforehand. Almost as soon as we became resellers, the conversation was put on the table, because we had a vision for that platform and technology which went considerably beyond what MetaCard Corporation were doing or planned to do with it. They were quite a small company, and they had quite a focused idea as to where they wanted to take it, and we really wanted to broaden it out and take it into other spaces, which we've since done. We raised money from a number of private individuals, and one of the largest and best known names was Mike Markula, the Apple co-founder, who put money in to help us to do that acquisition back in 2003. But we'd been planning it for some time before it happened, so by the time it happened, everything had been quite well organised, and we knew where we were going with it. What excites me? Empowering people to do something that they couldn't do otherwise. LiveCode is very useful for professional programmers who want to save time, and I love to see those things happening. But the things that really excite me are seeing a student get into computer programming for the first time, understand the idea of computational thinking, the idea that computers are predictable, that they're not just this magic box, but that you can put code into them and then you will get an output that you expect. Seeing somebody produce an app the first time and then really get into it and take that, I mean, that really inspires me. I'm also really inspired by some of our customers who started out maybe with very limited programming experience and very limited business experience, and built an entire business based on selling technology which was developed using the LiveCode platform. So, you know, we've got some customers that have built a multi-million-dollar revenue stream from nothing, and the entire business has been built and based on the LiveCode platform. And seeing people do that and have that level of success with the platform is something that really motivates me, and I find it's really inspirational to me. I've seen any recent projects that make me go, wow, I certainly have, yeah. So, the one that springs to mind is the app that the industrial toys guys are producing in LiveCode. So this is an app that's getting produced by Alex Seropian, who is the co-founder of Bungie, and they're building a interactive graphic novel in LiveCode. And they chose LiveCode because they wanted it to be fully interactive, they wanted good animation, they wanted deep, rich levels of interactivity. But there's also a cloud-based component to that, because what they do is when you choose different choices in that novel, it goes out to the cloud and stores that state, and they're producing in another platform a 3D game, and that 3D game then changes depending on the choices that you take in the interactive graphic novel. And it's a stunning app. I've seen it under development. It's not out quite yet, but it will be out fairly soon. And the graphics have been done by ex-Marvel Comics guys. It's a really stunning, really stunning app. I can't wait to see it come out.
My name's Ben, and my company role is that I'm the product manager for LiveCode. I joined RunRev in 2004, and my first task was to update 10 Thumbs typing tutor. No! My first task was to write an Oracle driver in C, and Mark and Kevin had interviewed me, and on my CV for 3 months I did C at IBM, or C++, and a summer placement at IBM, and so they presumed that from there I'd be good enough to write an Oracle driver, and it turned out I couldn't. And I remember we were some of the first employees they'd taken on, and Mark, I don't think, was used to the idea that people were not as capable as him. So he gave me this Oracle project and just didn't explain anything about it. He was just like, oh, can you make that work? And it was diabolical. And after 2 weeks of basically getting nothing done, it's that kind of balance of how do you go to the person who's just employed you and go, I've not really been able to do anything because I don't know what I'm doing. So my first project was an Oracle driver, which I couldn't do. I was rubbish. So then Mark shipped me off to consulting, and I worked on 10 Thumbs. They decided pretty quick I was a duffer when it came to C. I never got another C project. I was never ever earmarked to work in the engine after that one showing. I think what you can do with it in general is quite exciting, in that it definitely is an enabler of people who can't kind of code, but also an enabler of people who can in terms of what they can get done. So even in projects I work on outside of work for fun or for other people, I'll quite often prototype them using the product just because you can do it really quickly. And so I think that's, from an overall point of view, that is quite an exciting thing. No, I think the future's really bright. I think it's Kickstarter funding helps us to do stuff that we've not had the chance to do before. Ever since I've been here, and I'm pretty sure ever since some people have been using the technology, there's things they've wanted to see change or things develop. And, you know, I guess we have that with every product we use. I have that with Photoshop and Illustrator. I have things I'd love to see them change, or I'd love to see them develop and progress. And I think that's the same with the product. So I had my hit list the moment I started. So I think for the first time we have an opportunity to do a lot of the things that have been on our kind of hit list, that everybody in the company who has worked here long enough ends up with a hit list of things they'd really love to see progress. And maybe we've just not had the time or the resource. We're still quite a small company. So I think the Kickstarter stuff gives us a lot of freedom that we've not had before. And the projects that the guys are working on is really cool. I think, you know, once we really press on with this, we'll have a much cleaner platform with opportunities to take it to new platforms and to add a whole ton of new features to make it more consistent, to make it more robust, to make it stronger. So I think the future's really, really bright.
My name is Mark Waddingham and I'm the Chief Technology Officer for RunRev. Joined RunRev back in 2004. I think the first thing I was working on was porting the old customer database out of a HyperCard stack into an actual SQL database. It wasn't too bad actually. I haven't really used Revolution, obviously it's now LiveCode, very long back then, but it was very easy to pick up and get on with. So I think it took me about 20 hours or so to port the data across, and that was about 5,000, 6,000 records that need to be massaged in appropriate ways. I think getting our first app accepted in the App Store, where we did the mobile port, was quite a big achievement. Because obviously we ported the platform to about a year, I think, from the initial port to actually getting something that could actually be submitted and work in the App Store, and that was quite a big coup for us. Well, I think we have an amazing community, incredibly strong. I think in the last few years I've been focusing on various things which I've not really had much direct contact with them, although I always see them at conferences. But now, having gone open source, I'm kind of almost having daily contact with people, particularly in the engineering contributors forums and stuff like that, and they I continue to get impressed by the amount they do and the amount they use the product for. Yeah, so they're an integral part of our company, I would say. I don't think LiveCode would be what it is without them. I think one particular memorable moment is that I think Kevin and I tried to do an all-nighter to get a release out. Kevin flagged at about 4 a.m. and I was still there at like 8 a.m. trying to finish things. That was quite memorable.
My name is Michael, and my company role is to provide a bit of eye candy around the office. Also, kind of in between times, I do a little bit of coding on the engine, but it's mostly the eye candy thing, I think. I joined RunRev in 2007. It was a year after, it was just pretty much when I graduated, not long after I graduated, so 2006 maybe. Yep, and my first job was working. Well, originally when I joined, we had a separate department that we don't have now called the consulting department, and we did consulting work for other companies. So my first job was to develop a product that Eurotalk were working on. They're a foreign language learning company. They made foreign language learning discs. And when I first joined, they only made those discs for computers, and I developed the DVD building software, so it allowed those discs, which were originally only for working on PCs, to convert their current software so it ran on DVD players. At the moment, I am working on refining the build process currently. At the moment, we've just kind of released our open source versions. The way things are, the build process is kind of dragged. It's kind of sort of in development beforehand. Our build process was spread across several machines, and now I'm trying to refine it so it's kind of a much more streamlined process. So LiveCode build process is quite involved. There's several bits to it. LiveCode itself has several components. There's the actual main core engine itself, and then there's the IDE which sits on top of that, and then there's the documentation and so on. So kind of the first step for getting the build together is to actually make sure that we have everything that we want to go into the build ready and committed to our central repository. So we've recently restructured that also. All our repositories are now hosted online in GitHub, so the whole world can see what's there. So as we make commits in the office, the rest of the world can see what's going on there. And also external contributors make contributions too. So recently we had, or just 6.0.1, we've had a contribution from one of our from our community that's been pushed in or pulled into the main repository. So that's all there. So that's the first process to make sure. The first step is to make sure that everything is in the central repository ready to build. The next step is to actually build the core engines themselves. So we need to do that for Mac, Windows, Linux, iOS, Android, and server. So that's 6 different platforms we need to build. Well, that's not true. It's 5 platforms, and then the server platform, we need to do it for Mac, Windows, and Linux again. So it's 8 in total. So each of those individual builds need to be produced, and so we need to do that on 3 different machines. We obviously need to do it on Mac, Windows, and Linux, and then Mac we can do the iOS and Android builds, so all on that one machine. So that's there's kind of what happens there as we go off, and each of those individual machines go off and start building from the main repository. So hopefully once that's all built and running, that usually takes a couple of efforts, but once we've got the engines built, then we kind of move on to getting the documentation straight and making sure that everything is there and ready for the user to actually use this release that we're putting out. So that involves updating the dictionary, updating the release notes, making sure that all the new features that we've added have been documented correctly and are available for the user to see what we've made. Then once that's done, the final step is to put not quite the final step, but the next step is to put the installers together. So that is a separate process in itself. So that takes all the individual engine files, takes the IDE, it takes the documentation and puts it into a single installation file, which kind of is one for each platform, Mac, Windows, and Linux, and combines them together. So we've got a DMG for Mac and XE for Windows, and also an executable for Linux. And then that's pretty much the final step. After that, it involves getting the installers uploaded to the website and everyone informed, or the lists and the forums are then sent out. The email and the post is made to let them know that this new build is ready for them to run.
Okay, my name is Hans Schmidt-Cornelius. My company role, I'm responsible for quality at Runtime Revolution. Well, what does quality entail? It's basically trying to make sure that the products that we produce, that go out, meet a certain standard that we are basically happy with, and that allows the customers to enjoy the product and be sure that it meets also certain quality requirements that they would be looking for. Well, LiveCode has changed quite a lot since I joined. The way the company has addressed LiveCode and the way it's progressed itself over the years in a changing market situation has impacted a lot on the way LiveCode now is sold, produced, and also the way we address the quality aspects of it. So I think in overall, also looking at our recent approaches to going into the community release of LiveCode shows that we are very much adapted to market trends and see what customers actually need from the product. And that's being basically reflected in the way we are now releasing and distributing LiveCode. What do I enjoy most working for RunRev? It's a team aspect, really. It's basically the people we work with here in the company itself. I mean, it's work if you have to implement the aspects of code itself, but it's actually the team aspect. If it's going to the pubs now and then when I do have time and family commitments don't interrupt it. And also the team building days, which are also quite beneficial.
My name's Ali Lloyd. I'm a RunRev developer. I joined RunRev about 6 months ago, at the beginning of November last year, and the first thing I was working on was refactoring the engine. Currently working on part of the automating the build process, so I'm actually making sure that the release notes get generated automatically, and I'm also working on the mobile refactoring. I guess the thing that mainly excites me about LiveCode is the fact that it's so easy to use. I've only been using it for 6 months, and I already feel like I can do pretty much anything with it that I could do with most other languages.
My name is Heather, and my company role is Customer Services Manager for RunRev. Well, I joined in 1998, I believe, and at that time I was working part-time for RunRev. It was supposed to be 8 hours a week, and I was actually doing customer support for the typing tutor, which they launched with the company with. So I didn't do any programming or anything. I was just answering customers on the topic of typing tutors. I think the thing that most excites me personally about LiveCode, because obviously I'm not a programmer, never have been, is just the people that use it. I find the community very interesting people, and I love interacting with them and talking to them and seeing how they use LiveCode and how it changes people's lives. I also find, the people that I work with are very interesting. It's a great company to work for, and everybody who works here is very dedicated, very hardworking, and generally fun to work with.
My name is Caroline Finlay, and my role is business development. I joined RunRev at the very end of May 2012, and my first job was interviewing everybody in the company to see what their jobs were. I feel the company's moved on a lot, and I feel the product has moved on a lot as well. Certainly from a visibility point of view, the statistics really speak for themselves in terms of the hits on the website. So when I joined, I think the website was getting about 30,000 hits a month, and that has steadily increased through the use of our inbound marketing tools and the way in which we're repackaging our information to share it online. So our visibility online now is much greater, and also because of the Kickstarter campaign, of course, our hits for this month are up to about 150,000, so it's really transformed. I love the fact that RunRev is a Scottish company, and that this is an amazing product with a global interest and can be beneficial to people from a 13-year-old all the way through to someone who it could be a silver surfer with an interest in making their own app. So the application of LiveCode at many levels is enormous, and I find that really exciting, actually, moving forwards.
So my name is David Williams, and my role in the company is server admin, and has been alongside software development, but it's primarily server admin at the moment for the OnRev hosting service, as well as all our other server administration. So I joined RunRev in August 2010, I think it was, and the first thing I was assigned to was working on an app with Eurotalk to develop numeracy. It was a numeracy app for school children in Malawi, and that went on for quite some time. That was quite a significant but very, very interesting project to work on. So at the moment I'm mainly working on migrating the OnRev hosting service to a new server cluster with some very nice shiny new hardware to replace what we're currently on, and that's consuming all of my time at the moment. It's that, as well as, I mean, handling the day-to-day, keeping everything ticking over. That's pretty much what I'm working on at the moment. So how I use LiveCode outside of work? Yes, quite a lot. I used LiveCode, or Revolution as it used to be known, for quite a long time before working for RunRev. And I've also done quite a lot of bits and pieces in LiveCode and LiveCode Server. I've done quite a lot of stuff in as well. So yeah, it's the primary thing that I use for coding outside of work. Yes, I wrote a server bot in LiveCode Server which interacts with a Minecraft server without modifying the game files in any way, which I was quite pleased about, and it works kind of like an IRC bot. So that was a cool little neat thing to write.
So my name's Arnaud Bouchot. I am web developer and system admin. I joined RunRev in October 2011, and my first task was to dive in the store that has been developed by Michael McCrory and Ben Beaumont to implement a new license. At this time it was LiveCode Complete. At the moment we are re-architecting the websites, the two main websites, and because we launched LiveCode community recently, we have to make a new website for that purpose. So it's about migrating the websites and new developments, implementing the dev center, porting the store to new CMS. So there's a lot of projects going on. I remember when I first learned programming, that was obviously in France, using a programming language that was a French syntax. So we were learning the algorithm this way, but we didn't have the possibility to actually see the application on a cool device like an iPhone or an Android telephone, which was quite frustrating. But now people and purpose at school can learn programming, develop apps, and see the result on their device, show their parents. Well, I just add that command line. Stupid make a loop and.
My name's Ian McPhail. I work here as a software developer. Joined RunRev just over 5 years ago. I think my first task was, fixing the current menu system at the moment, adding extra accelerators, things like that. What excites me about the work that I'm doing with LiveCode is there's a lot of kind of challenging work ahead of us. It's going to require us of taking more control of the code base and kind of making decisions about what we have to do. So looking forward to getting stuck in.
My name's David and I'm a producer with RunRev. So I joined RunRev in 2006 in the role that I'm in at the moment. So that's what I've been doing since I started. LiveCode's brilliant. I think it's fantastic. It enables non-programmers like myself to program using a great English-like language, and it means that we can make our own apps and software, which maybe a few years ago that many people couldn't, but now LiveCode is getting out to the masses, especially going open source. That it means that a lot of non-programmers can now program and, I suppose, become a programmer.
My name is Mildred, and my role at RunRev is Kevin's personal assistant. I joined RunRev just over a year now in March, end of March 2012, and I think one of my first tasks was to tidy up the office. No, actually, it was to fix the dishwasher. At the moment, I've got just ongoing meetings and events for Kevin, so keeping his diary really busy, keeping him organized, and just making sure that he's turning up for meetings at the right place and at the right time. Aside from that, a few Kickstarter fulfillments
My name is Jojo Hernandez, and I am both the Finance Director and the Conference and Events Director. I joined RunRev just coming up for 10 years ago, and I was the Financial Controller. I had taken over from Ian Harris, so it was a very long time ago, and my first task was to just get a bit more organisation in place and to rearrange the account systems. What do I love most about RunRev is just working with the team. It's a great team to work with, and we have such a broad spectrum of customers as well. It's great to see how they use and apply LiveCode every day within their lives and their jobs and their personal life in different fields.
My name's Eleanor Buchanan, and I'm a LiveCode developer. I joined RunRev in 2005, and my first job was working in the consulting department, working on a Eurotalk project. At the moment, I am working on the new LiveCode IDE, so some of the new components that were released in 6.0. So just working on taking them forward a bit more, working on some of the things that people have reported, some of the things that people would like. I'm also preparing for the conference and for a teacher training day. I have used LiveCode outside of work. Steve, who's our graphic designer, designed a diet app, and I helped him with the coding side of that, so we worked on that together. I would say that my most memorable moment from my time in RunRev was probably at our San Jose conference when Neil jumped into the pool fully clothed to celebrate how well it had all gone.
My name's Steve Thomas, and I'm a digital designer at RunRev. I joined RunRev in August 2011. My first task was to brand LiveCode version 5 ready for launch and take care of all of the marketing on the website for the new product. Yeah, the products come a long way, so it's interesting to see how that's developed. Not only the look and feel of it, but a lot of the functionality that's in there and how it works. But then also, seeing the company grow as well, so hiring new developers and, the company becoming a bit more structured, so some of the teams being a little bit more shored up. Yeah, I've created an app with Eleanor that's currently in the App Store. It was extremely quick development process, and again, being able to use LiveCode to move the project forward and have a sort of back and forth relationship with a LiveCode developer just seems really intuitive to me. Do I have any memorable moments from RunRev? I guess the team building exercise was really interesting, and that was a fun day out. But also just going through the experience and the joy of winning the Kickstarter, that was really, really interesting. And it was nice to work with some people that I wouldn't necessarily work with, so that was interesting.
LiveCode has evolved immensely over the years, since its initial 1.0 beta release in the January of 2001 to the most recent release of LiveCode 6. Along with a name change or two and many successful developer conferences, LiveCode has had a vast amount of features added and updated that have brought it in line with the current expectations of a modern, technology-driven world. These include networking support, database support, multimedia support, data security support, and full cross-platform development spanning across desktop, server, and mobile. There have been many companies that use LiveCode to create software that drives their businesses. Some notable examples are Canela Software 2020 Vision. Canela Software uses LiveCode to develop and distribute the leading visual acuity system in the USA. Eurotalk. Eurotalk is a company that develops interactive learning software, and they've built a #1 selling App Store application using LiveCode. NASA. The United States Geology Survey uses LiveCode to support the operation of their NASA-built Landsat 7 satellite. KLM. LiveCode was used to create its ticket booking system. RunRev has had fantastic commercial success with LiveCode, and it was decided that they were going to redevelop the platform and go open source. LiveCode going open source was made possible through crowdfunding, more specifically Kickstarter. Our aim was to raise an initial £350,000. The £350,000 goal was smashed with nearly £500,000 raised, and this meant we could also bring some fantastic new features to the platform via Kickstarter stretch goals.
The future of LiveCode, well, it's a really exciting time to be a live coder at the moment. We're obviously just gone open source. We're busy doing the biggest redevelopment project that we've ever done in the history of the company, and we really hope to make the platform just a lot more ubiquitous when it's been really nicely organized in terms of the source base. It's modular, everybody can contribute to it, it's very open, and all of the various components that are now a little bit long in the tooth have been refactored and replaced with brand new, modern, up-to-date components. I think that's going to be a great thing. I also want to see how it does in education now that it's free, and if we can promote it more into those spaces, and hopefully see lots and lots more brilliant #1 apps get built with it. But yeah, I mean, it's a really, really exciting time for us at the moment. I think it's important in life that you do something that you love, and that you spend the majority of your time doing something that you're really engaged with. And for me, I mean, I look forward to Monday morning. It's my favourite day of the week. It's my favourite day of the week because I'm fresh, I come in and I get going, and I'm doing something that I really enjoy doing, and I think that's one of the things that also motivates me, along with all the other things I've talked about, to do what I do.